Welcome to the new MYFC Podcast. Hello and welcome again to the new MYFC Podcast. This is show number 4. I'm your host, Augustine Sasso. That's Augie Sasso on the boards. You can email me at augiesasso@gmail.com or augiesasso@yahoo.com, or my new email, augustine.sasso@myfootballclub.co.uk. The last one is pretty official. So send me your comments and suggestions. I want to hear from you. Now, the lead-in music should give you a clue. I'm going on vacation, or as they say in the UK, going on holiday. I'll be in Italy for 2 weeks. But on to the business of Ebbsfleet. Tough loss on Saturday. I've got a good, short interview with Charles. We talk a bit about the loss to Maidenhead, then we talk about the Farnborough game coming up. That game is scheduled to be broadcast over the internet. Now, at the end of our interview, Charles gives an address in case you can't listen to the game on Wednesday. They're trying to work out the technical aspects of broadcasting the game, but if you can't get that game on Wednesday, please go to the Kent website, the BBC Kent website, and call or email them at their Tunbridge Wells address. The email is kent@bbc.co.uk. Now, after my interview with Charles Webster, I've got a talk with myself and Pete from the Society Board. We decided to talk about some things about Ebbsfleet and a little bit about MYfootball club. I'd like to have this as a regular segment where we just talk about different topics that we feel are of interest to you, the listener. I'm always trying to keep the show under 30 minutes. Anyway, so here is Lord Charles.
Yeah, let's go. Let's rock and roll.
All right. So in my email, I said we should probably talk about last week's game.
Yeah.
And
I've got it open in front of me.
Okay. And we can go through all the regular cliches. Like I said, this is the first game of the season. The team hasn't played together enough. Maidenhead is trying to prove something just after having been promoted. Liam's teams do better in the second half, all that stuff. But, was there something else that maybe you saw that, we can talk about, both good or bad, about the game?
Well, I agree with you that Maidenhead were trying to prove something, but it's not because they've just got promoted. They've been in this division for 4 years. And that's one of the key issues, that their manager is a guy called Johnson Hippolyte, who's got a great nickname of Drax. Everybody calls him Drax. And he's a wily old campaigner, and he knows this league inside out. And I think their success on Saturday owes a great deal to his knowledge of the league, his knowledge of the players in the league, of what works and what doesn't, his tactics. He played a spoiling game. They were playing rope-a-dope. It's like watching Muhammad Ali against George Frazier. They were absorbing the Fleet pressure, and they were attacking on the counter-attack. And they didn't need too many breaks to get their goals. The first goal was a suspect penalty, but nevertheless it was awarded by a referee that didn't have the greatest of games. And the second goal, the guy that got it, he was a substitute who came on late in the game. I think he had a couple of runs before he scored, and he looked as though he couldn't even control the ball. But then he whipped the shot away, and went round Preston Edwards and gave them the lead. And shortly after that, he was substituted. So he only came on the game. Talk about an impact player. He came on late and he was taken off at the end. So in about 20 minutes he did the damage, but it was enough to win the game. And Maidenhead, that was their strategy. They took it on the chin. Anything the Fleet could throw at them, they held firm, and they broke and they got the goals that counted. I think the thing that I saw more than anything is I've seen all the friendly games so far, and there's no doubt that there are some talented, quality players at Ebbsfleet this season. But what we haven't got yet is a team. And the team is something that builds over time. Whereas Maidenhead, they've just added one or two players to the squad they had last year, which is what most of the sides in the division have done, including Farnborough, who the Fleet play on Wednesday. But the Fleet, once again, they've gone out and made a whole bunch of signings, and it's going to take time for those players to bed in and understand each other and learn to play together and learn the strengths and the weaknesses and, learn when the players make their runs and where they make their runs. And, in that respect, I think, we're victims of the late start that the Fleet had to their planning, because everybody waited until the league annual general meeting in late June to see which division they were going to be in. And because nothing really happened much until then, the side has been put together very quickly, so it's not had time to bed down. So that is really what I saw, that we've got good players, but we haven't yet moulded them into a team, and that may take, a month or so, by which time, some points may have slipped away, but time will tell how quickly, that's going to take to go through that phase. And also it may be that, Liam Daesh will look at the players that he's got and maybe say, maybe that one's not quite what I was thinking I was signing. I think we'll move him on and bring somebody else in, because of course this year, for the first time in almost a decade, the Fleet are not restricted by a transfer window. So he's got the latitude to be able to bring players in all through the season. And I know from speaking to him last week at Chatham, he's going to be looking, even now the season started, to bring in the players that he wants. But of course, more changes means more time to bed the team in. There is one other factor, of course, if we go back to Maidenhead, and you mentioned about were they trying to prove something. Well, sadly, that's the legacy of the Fleet's recent success, i.e. winning the FA Trophy at Wembley. Ebbsfleet are seen as a big scalp amongst clubs like Maidenhead, who have not had such success themselves. And the Fleet, having been in the Blue Square Premier for a number of seasons, clubs like Maidenhead, to them, it's a big scalp to capture. And, so they're going to go all out to do whatever they can to stop the Fleet and then steal the points, and that's what they did.
Yeah, well, that was my feeling too. Again, points that were stolen, but it seems to me, from what I read, is that we had, and what you said, we had the better side, and I'm hopeful about that.
I'm not saying we had a better side.
Okay.
I think man for man, we had better players, but because they've been playing together longer. For Maidenhead, I think the Maidenhead side gelled together better than we did. And I think, look at the reverse fixture later in the season, when maybe the Fleet go to Maidenhead with a bit more time to have found their cohesion, then you may see a different story.
Yeah, that's my thinking too. That's my thinking. While we were talking, I was just wondering if you got a sense of the atmosphere at Stonebridge Road. I think the crowd was about 790, but could you tell anything, about that atmosphere? Was it, were they excited? Were there a lot of away fans?
There weren't too many away fans. There were one or two that were escorted out of the ground. I think that was behind the goal. I mean, I was stuck in the press box a long way from everything. But there were about a dozen Maidenhead fans who were singing and getting behind their team. and they were coming out with sarcastic chants like "you're just a small team in Dartford," things like that, which was amusing. And they made their presence felt. But I felt the Ebbsfleet fans, they arrived with a certain amount of expectation. And, most people I spoke to, it's going to be 3-0, it's going to be 4-0, it's going to be this, it's going to be that. And, of course, it didn't work out that way. So as the season wore on, and, we hit the crossbar and, hit the upright and all sorts of things stopping us from scoring goals, gradually the frustration crept in and people start to think, here we go again. We've had 2 seasons of really, really difficult games at Stonebridge Road. And, so it turned out to be on Saturday and, it just wasn't our day, but we've said the same so many times in the last couple of years. And, we were hoping that this year it was going to be a different start, a better start for the season, but it wasn't to be. So the crowd, I think they went away somewhat disappointed, to say the least. I mean, they could see the players individually, got a lot to offer, but they didn't see their team, really as a fighting unit, putting Maidenhead under enough pressure to take the points. So I think, they're still optimistic. There's only one game gone, of course, but, I think there was a bit of sense of deja vu with 1 or 2 people.
Yeah, that would be expected, but